So, Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
In case you haven't noticed, we are close to the high holidays. I don't know if anybody got that memo. I don't know if you got that really big packet of information that we sent out with all of the high holiday offerings. But Rosh Hashanah is but like 5 days away. So we have been preparing in lots of ways. Our spiritual preparations, our emotional preparations. Some of us, physically have to strengthen. Rabbi Shar, for example, has to make sure that he is training well enough to gym to do the Hagbah with the big Torahs, right? So some of us physically prepare as well. But part of our emotional and spiritual preparation is reciting Psalm 27. Over the past few weeks during our Shabbat services, Cantor has been leading us in Achat Sha'alti. It says, Achat Sha'alti me'at Adonai, ota avakesh. Please, God, if there is one thing that I can ask of you, it's this. But that is but one phrase from Psalm 27. And it's become tradition to read Psalm 27 in preparation for the high holidays, starting in the month of Elul, all the way to Sukkot. Often we don't take time to really study and read the words of the prayer, or the psalm, that has become a prayer, but the psalm in its entirety. And on this Shabbat, the Shabbat preceding Rosh Hashanah, since we've been singing part of it, I thought it would be a good opportunity to really look at the text. So Dory, for those folks online, has graciously shared the source sheet for you to follow along. For those of you who are in the sanctuary, you should have received a handout that has the translation to Psalm 27 on it. This particular translation is offered by Rabbi Richard Levy, who was one of my dear teachers, Zichrono Livracha, may his memory be for a blessing. But he was a beautiful writer, a beautiful translator, and shared this translation that I'd like to share with you. So we're going to read it together, and then I'm going to ask, I'm preparing you in advance. I'm going to ask for your participation. You're going to get to look at some questions that I have prepared. You're going to speak to each other, because Elul is also a time for reflection. It is the time that we do what is called a cheshbon hanefesh, a look at, a checking, so to speak. We keep account of our soul, and we have to look inward to figure out who we want to be in the coming year. So we're going to read this psalm together, and then we're going to think about it together. We're going to do some of that cheshbon hanefesh work, that soul work, so that we can spiritually and emotionally prepare for Rosh Hashanah and the high holiday season. So this psalm says, it's a psalm of David. Adonai is my light and my victory. From whom shall I feel fright? Adonai is the stronghold of my life. From whom shall I feel terror? When evildoers approach me and battle to feed on my flesh, my pursuers, my adversaries, they have stumbled, they have fallen down. If a camp encamps against me, my heart will not fear. If a war arises against me, in this I would trust. One thing I have sought from Adonai, how I long for it. And this part is what we sing, Achat Sha'alti, one thing that I ask of God. That I may look upon the sweetness of Adonai and spend time in the palace, that you may hide me in your sukkah on this chaotic day. Hide me in the hiding places of your tent. Raise me high upon a rock. Now my head rises above my enemies round about, and in your tent I'll offer offerings of the sound of teruah, of that noise that we blow with the shofar. We call teruah. Those are the 9 broken notes. I shall sing and chant praises to Adonai. Hear, Adonai, my voice. I am crying out. Be gracious to me. Answer me. My heart has said to you, seek my face. I am seeking your face, Adonai. Do not hide your face from me. Do not turn your servant away in anger. You have been my help. Do not forsake me. Do not abandon me, God of my deliverance. For my father and my mother have abandoned me, yet Adonai gathers me up. Make your path apparent to me. Guide me in the upright road because of those up ahead who lie in wait for me. Do not hand me over to the lust of my adversaries, for false witnesses have risen against me, puffing violently. Had I not the faith that I would see the goodness of God in the land of life? Wait for Adonai. Fill your waiting with hope in Adonai. Let your heart be strong and of good courage, and wait hopefully for Adonai. So I'm going to have Cantor put up on the screen some questions that I would like for you to consider. I'm going to ask you to take just a few moments. We don't have to spend a long time on this, but I want us to really do some of that soul work that is so important to getting us spiritually prepared to come here on Wednesday nights to begin this new year together. So some questions you might want to consider, things that come up in this psalm. Who are our adversaries? And I want you to think broadly about that, because sometimes an adversary is without, but sometimes the adversary comes from within. Who do we need to think about, and who are we going to have to be in opposition to as we come to Rosh Hashanah? If you could ask for God for one thing, what would you ask for? What is it that you seek, that you long for, that you yearn for? Where is God's home? How do we access God's sukkah? We ask God to hide us, to protect us in God's sukkah. How do we find that? What path do you seek in this coming year? It says, guide me in the upright road. Make your path apparent to me. What is your path? And finally, in the last verse, it says, wait hopefully for Adonai. What does it mean for us to wait with hope? So I'd like you to just turn for a couple of minutes to some people sitting near you. You may even get out of your seat. I'm going to say it. You could do that. Or you could just turn to the people next to you. Take a few minutes. You don't have to answer all of these questions. Choose a couple. Start that soul work early. Asking them all the questions. Take about one more minute. I know it's not enough time to go through all of the questions in depth, but take about one more minute. All right, I'm going to ask us to turn back together. I'm also going to ask you, and not ask you, invite you. I'm going to invite you to keep your sheets and to continue asking these questions and having these discussions. Just because we ask the questions in the sanctuary does not mean that they have to stay in the sanctuary. This is not Fight Club. So I am going to ask one final question. Given your reflection, given what we've read, given what you know, and what you've thought about together, why is this the psalm that we read as we lead up to the high holidays? Why is this the psalm that we read from Elul all the way through Sukkot? Who has some ideas? What spoke to you? There's no right answer. There's no wrong answer, I promise. Why is this psalm and what stood out to you as something that helps us to spiritually prepare, so much so that the rabbis told us that this is the psalm we should be reading in spiritual preparation? Anybody? Again, no right answer, no wrong answer. What about it says this is high holidays to you? What helps you? What about this is helping you think about high holidays? Okay, I'm going to just repeat it if it's okay. Okay. Justin says, because there is hope that things could be better than they are. And if that isn't what the high holidays are about, then I don't know what is, right? This psalm, it acknowledges that sometimes we live with fear, sometimes we live with pain, that there are adversaries in our midst, and yet, even despite that, there is a hope that things could be better than they are right now. Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you, Astrid. You get the mic. I just wasn't fast enough for Justin. It should be on.
It's on? I don't know.
It's on. David, can you?
Oh, well, I'll just speak up. I mean, it's got all the major imagery of the high holidays. It speaks of sweetness, which is part of Rosh Hashanah. It talks about a tent, so that's Sukkot, and then there's a little bit of atonement going on. So, I mean, it's like a sampler platter of all the imagery of high holidays.
Yeah, absolutely right. Thank you, Astrid. So it has the imagery of the high holidays within the text itself. It talks about all of these different pieces, and they all come together, that they're woven together in such a way throughout the psalm that they help evoke what it means to look and be and feel like that we're in this holiday season. Anybody else?
I think the part where asking for the path to be made apparent and to put us on the upright road is very important to think about before even high holidays, yes, but also Yom Kippur, when we are either inscribed in the book of life or not, but it's our actions that lead us there, not necessarily just blind faith. We have to also put the effort in to do the right thing, to make amends, to be a light upon the nations.
Beautiful. Thanks, Francisco. Right, we have to do the work, right? But we can also ask God for guidance about what that path may be and how we're going to get there. We have to take action, but we need to do that soul work, that spiritual cheshbon hanefesh, to evaluate where we are in this moment and where we want to be. And that has to happen before we get to Yom Kippur, right? We can't do that work in a single afternoon. We have to do it in preparation for it. This psalm says, show me that right path. Help me understand what that means for me. Thank you. Anyone else? So we are going to sing this psalm again, well, part of it. We're going to continue doing this spiritual preparation. And this, I invite you to maybe make this part of your spiritual practice, to think about this psalm, to ask yourself these questions, The time of Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are not the only time we can ask these questions and do this kind of soul work, but it is the time of year that we're in. So think about how you want to be, where you want to go, how you want to get there in this new year. Shabbat Shalom.